Well, it's that time again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the interview with Craig-Veltri.
Thank you, Megan Pennington. And welcome to the interview. Originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, our guest today is a singer songwriter, multi instrumentalist, and world's traveler. While she's traveled around the world, her music as of late seems to be a journey into the spiritual realm and among celestial bodies. Her latest EP, Hungry Moon, is a formidable show of range featuring songs that were ideas untouched and unfinished for many years. It also signals her intention for EPs to come. Hungry Moon is available now as of the drop of this episode, and we will world premiere the track Made of Glass at the end of this episode. Recording in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and calling in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, here she is, Kim Maverick. Kim, welcome to the interview.
Craig, thank you so much for having me. It's great to do this. I know you've been wanting to do it for a while, so I'm so happy you had the time.
Well, having known you now, I think almost 2 years, and having heard some of the stuff that you've done prior to this release, I really wanted to get you on to talk about the stuff you had done prior and felt it was wealth of material to talk about. And we may cross over it because I really do want to talk about the stuff, and I'm glad you made me wait. But it began for you in Canada. Do you remember where music began for you? That is to say, like, what's your first memory behind a piano?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, music is a constant in my life. My parents are not really musical, but my mom loves music. Like she played records a lot around the house. And I think like the activation thing for me was Madonna. I just loved Madonna. I used to like stand on my bed and sing into like my Sailor Moon wand, pretending to be her. And
That's why you
yeah,
call yourself Maverick. Is that correct?
that is, yeah. There's a number of reasons, but that's one of the main reasons. She's a huge influence on me. And yeah, but my parents, even though they're not musical themselves, they love music and they did a really good job with trying to like foster my interest in music. So like I always wanted to write. I always was like in if there was a room, my grandparents had a piano, and so I would like tinker on that. And when I was a kid for Christmas, they got me like this xylophone piano, and I was playing a song or whatever, figuring things out by ear. And I do remember this because I remember the frustration of it was a rainbow keyboards like a Fisher Price xylophone,
Right.
and it's only the white keys of the piano. And I was figuring out something by ear, and I was like, Mom, there's a note missing. Like the note is, it's not this note, it's not this note, there's something in between. And that was, my mom tells this story a lot, and she's like, okay, that was the moment where we're like, we should probably get her into piano lessons. It seems like she's serious about this.
Well, according to your bio, your first word was more, and apparently that was something that continued on as far as your musical growth into. By the way, for anybody keeping score at home, Maverick. The reason why I brought that up is that was the label that Madonna had formed in the mid '90s for hers and other projects as well. So when you managed to start playing, how like you were always writing? How that young? How young are we talking here?
Gosh, as soon as I could talk, I was writing, and it was before I could write, before I knew what music looked like, before I was just singing to myself and making up songs. I think a lot of kids do this. The difference is that I'm like, for me anyway, I was very obsessed with trying to write things down. So when I would write a song, I learned to read and write when I was really young because my mom was bored, and she taught me. She stayed home with me and my brothers. So my mom did teach me to read when I was really young, going back to like I could read before I was in kindergarten. So I used to write out my lyrics, and then I would draw a little line on top of the words of like what the melody was, and and kind of like what a MIDI piano roll looks like today. I would do that on a
Yeah.
piece of paper, so I would remember my melodies. And then when I started piano lessons and I saw the staff, I was relieved. I was like, oh, this is so much better than what I was trying to do. I'm so glad that someone figured this out. So yeah, I had some piano teachers who were really good at like fostering that. creativity too. I wrote a song about penguins, like trying to waddle on the keyboard, and so my teachers helped me write it out in notation until I could do it myself.
You talk about the theory structure of thing. Where do you believe that you found most of your lyrical structure from? Was it from these same teachers, or were you finding it on records? Just
Oh, definitely on records. Definitely on records. I think that started for me. My first couple songs I wrote about relish. I wrote about penguins. I wrote, you write about things that are cute. As I wrote about my dog, that kind of
I'm
thing.
glad
I
I
always,
lost my stuff because that's not true.
yeah. But once I got to be like 9 or 10 years old, it was Jewel was quite big on the radio, and so I was really drawn to her voice. And then from studying her first couple records, that was when I started reading poetry from because she would reference poets in her lyrics, and so yeah, Leonard Cohen was a big influence on me when I was a very, very serious child when I was like, this is me as 11, 12 years old. I'm reading Leonard Cohen and um, Pablo Neruda, like way too mature poetry than what I should have
I didn't
been
even find out about Cohen
into.
until I reached college. So I mean, I
Well, you
was
didn't grow up in Canada, so
oh, that's
Canada
true.
certainly helps in that respect too. But I always liked dance music too, so even though I was listening to this like very introspective singer-songwriter stuff, I was also, very into the Spice Girls and very into Aqua, Barbie Girl. Like that was the first CD I ever bought. So I was kind of like one foot in each world of like there's one side of me that's this intense introspective poet, and then the other side of me that just wants to like turn my brain off and dance.
It brings forth a very interesting blend because I recall listening to your one single. I adore this song, and I apologize that the name of it's not really on the tip of my tongue, but the one about being lonely, and
Oh,
it's
lucky to be lonely. Yeah.
lucky to be lonely. I adore that song, and a lot of it is something that's very danceable. I mean, even the piano, it kind of had almost like a Warren Zevon kind of mix. You kind of do straddle the balance quite well. Um, I Is it a conscious thing with you to not really lean into a style? My thought in is if it's gonna sound like Zeppelin, lean into Zeppelin. So you tend to kind of split the difference in there. Is that conscious or is that uh, just how it comes out of you?
That's a great question, man. I think I like music across a lot of different genres. I always have. In high school I found like heavy metal, and then in college I went to school for music, and it was mostly like classical, a little bit of, and my teacher was amazing, my composition teacher. He was like very post-classical, so he'd encourage us to do a lot of like free jazz, avant-garde stuff. So I've always liked a variety of things, and especially with the songs that you've heard and stuff that I've been writing in the past 5 years or so, I have been trying to figure out like, okay, what's the common thread between stuff I like? I like music theater, and I like heavy metal, and I like Carly Rae Jepsen. Like, what do those things have in common? How can I split the difference? And sometimes I do still have an idea where, so Craig and I met through NSAI, that's the Nashville Songwriters Association. And when I was first getting involved with NSAI, I was very interested in writing for commercial country radio. I was like, okay, this will be a way for me. I was thinking of it as like, maybe this is my retirement game. I'll write a song and have a hit. Um, yeah, and so
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 many
I
people got into it with that idea.
I know, yeah, music for money. Just selling my soul. No, but it was
I
really
didn't say
like,
that.
yeah, I'm glad that that didn't work out, because I ended up through the pandemic, especially when I was writing a lot every day out of boredom, and that it led me to feel, because I didn't really think of myself as an artist. I've been in bands before, and I love playing in bands, but I didn't have like the kind of confidence to be a solo artist until in the pandemic of writing every day and starting to see like, okay, how can I connect this with this? What is there a common thread, and do I have a sound that is like unique to me? I think I always say pop rock because it's like I like stuff that's a little edgy but danceable and introspective. So yeah, I don't know.
So
It's not a
that
conscious,
would you would say is the common thread, or maybe even just the middle ground of it. You would say you're more pop rock, and it
more
would.
pop rock. Yeah. Yeah. I like everything, but the stuff that I'm making when I call it Kim Maverick and I'm, um because I have a bunch of friends that I write with, and so I have a friend we write more metal, another friend we write more like country, modern singer-songwriter stuff, and but for me, when I'm on my own as Kim Maverick, I'm thinking more pop rock.
We're here with Kim Maverick here on the Craig-Veltri interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network. Check out all of our social medias. Check out Mommy Rockstar featuring Megan Pennington coming soon to a device near you. The Cool Brother Podcast, the Mothership, as I like to call it, Fire Pit. And thank you for listening to the Craig Veltri interview. As I'm very fascinated in anybody that picks up more than one instrument. You play drums, you play piano, you play guitar. Was it more of that you wanted, were your songs demanding these instruments, or were you just that into picking up all of these skills all your life? I mean, you're a self-professed nerd, so it's
Yeah.
just that just playing to that.
Yeah, I am a nerd. I think I've always had a curiosity. I think of myself as a singer-songwriter, and I didn't always know what that meant, and I think different people define it differently, but for me, I really thought of it as like, if I'm a songwriter, I got to do everything, and so I looked up to producers who would mix and master their own work. I looked up, in Canada, there's a band called Mariana's Trench. Josh Ramsey is a producer, and he does everything. And he's like the most insane, outstanding vocalist you could ever encounter. And so I looked at people like him. I looked at, and going further back, like Nile Rodgers, like he's always playing on stuff that he produced. And Madonna too, like Madonna played drums and plays guitar on all of her records. She always like tries to play guitar in her live shows at least for one number. And yeah, I
Lately
like that.
tries, but
Oh no, no, she's great. She's covered Pantera. Like look her up. She's the real deal.
fair enough.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I always wanted to do things myself. I think a lot of it also stemmed out of frustration of trying to communicate my ideas to others.
Mm.
It's like starting a band and collaborating with other musicians. It's a lot like dating. It doesn't you'll run into a lot of people, you'll try it, doesn't always click. And I think like that, the heartbreak that I felt from trying to collaborate with people really was a big part of what motivated me to being like, okay, I don't want to need anyone. I want to do this all myself.
I'm finding that all I'm going to say to that is I completely and utterly understand that, but I've always fall back on the excuse I don't have time or the money to find a drum kit. So I guess I'm stuck for the moment as far as that is
Mm.
concerned. But
Well, I
what
also got really lucky because Howl at the Moon gave me a platform where I could practice. I don't know if I would have ever, I've always wanted to learn drums, but I don't know if I would have if I hadn't had that like prod to play drums at Howl.
For those that don't know, Howl at the Moon is a chain of dueling piano bars that are throughout the country. They're based out of Chicago. There's a location in Pittsburgh, and as of this recording, you are the entertainment director for Howl at the Moon. You strike me as the kind of person that you will not really seek out the opportunities, but when the opportunity is presented with you, and if it makes sense, you're going to definitely go for it. And How the Moon is something that definitely makes sense for you. When did it make sense for you enough to take the job? When did you take that job?
Oh gosh. So it's such a funny story. So I heard about Howl at the Moon. I was living in LA. I was in LA very, very briefly, but I was looking for, I was new in LA, trying to find like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm rebuilding my life. And I saw a Facebook ad for like rock stars wanted. And it was someone standing, straddling two pianos, silhouette. And so I went to the website and I was like, man, it would be so cool to do this. And I showed my boyfriend at the time, I showed it to him and he's like, you should go for it. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not good enough to play a dueling piano bar. I can't play stride. I'm not like Liberace. So I had that in my head and he's like, well, let them decide. You just apply and let them decide if you're good enough. And I even said, I said like, okay, well, I'll apply, but I'm not going to record anything new. I'm not going to try too hard. That way I'm not let down if they don't pick me. So I submitted, and then in a big whirlwind, I left LA, I left that relationship, moved to Pittsburgh, and I didn't think about Hell at the Moon at all, you know, until I was downtown Pittsburgh and saw Hell at the Moon coming soon. And I was like, huh, maybe I will audition for then. But nah, and I was still not really confident about my playing. I was in a worship band at that time, and the worship players I was with were so good at improv, and I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I'm good enough. But a friend of mine did work at Howl at the Moon, and he kind of started training. He would tell me about it, and he's like, I think you should do it. And I was like, you know, I want to. I don't know if I'm ready. And then I had a dream. I had a dream
A
that I was
dream.
working at Howl at the Moon. I had a dream that I was harmonizing with one of the other singers that was there. And then when I woke up the next day from the dream and I was like, you know what? I do think I'm going to apply. Can you? I said to my friend, like, can you give me a drum lesson, a bass lesson? So I'm not, because I knew that all the instrumentalists, all the entertainers at Howl played everything. So I said to my friend, like, can you give me a drum lesson? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then that week there was an opening. That week they announced that they needed a female player. So it was like I had the dream, and then I applied on that Wednesday, and then that Thursday a girl was fired, and then I auditioned that Saturday, started working the following week. So it was like very serendipitous. But for me, it was a big thing that drew me to it. Was like I was, you know, trying to find a way to perform. I had bands, I had my original music, I was teaching privately,
Mhm.
and I, I, you know, the idea of playing the same room all the time was very appealing to me at that point in my life because I had done the thing of touring around with my band and doing weekend warrior stuff where we would drive out 4 hours and play a dive bar and come back. I was kind of getting tired of that because when you do that, so much of your time is spent on all the things that are not music. You know, you spent your time on networking and dealing with booking and agents and promoting, and so it was like less and less time that I could spend on the craft of playing and writing. And so I saw Howl at the Moon as this way of being like, okay, here's a way I can make money and perform and not have to deal with all those other pieces as much. I can kind of just show up and play the same room.
Well, other than the convenience and just the continuity, the stability that this job offers, as an artist, because it is a cover gig.
Right. Yeah.
I don't exactly see you maybe not yet pulling out these songs on a Howl at the Moon stage, but what is the main thing that you feel as an artist that this thing gave you other than the financial stability?
Man, just like the way the like just like the chance to perform so much for so many different audiences has taught me a lot about what it is to be an entertainer, what service we provide as musicians. And it really like it does inform what I write too, you know? So I love playing covers. I love playing songs that are a part of people's lives that they have memories with, you know, because I'll get a request for something and I'm like, oh man, this is my jam in middle school. And then we have like this common ground there. And so I love that. I love the spontaneity of Howl at the Moon, especially because we're playing requests and jamming together. So I love that. And also it's like I get a lot of inspiration from it of being like when you really learn a song, because we learn songs, like we memorize, we get into the weeds, we rehearse constantly. So like when I started at Howl, when I first auditioned, I knew maybe a dozen songs. And then over the course of training, I grew my repertoire to 70 songs. Now that I've been doing it for 10 years, I know like thousands of songs from memory. And just to have those songs living inside of me, of like they're in my mind, I know the harmony, I understand the theory behind them intimately.
Can you
It
point
like
to a song in your own catalog that wealth of knowledge in this time has had an effect on your own music.
Oh man. Well, the day that I learned I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston, it has this great When the Night Falls, that
Mhm.
chord that hits there. It's a 5/6 chord. And when I learned that chord, everything I wrote for like the next 2 months had that chord
A
in
minor
there.
seven was mine. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's like those types of things of like it's increasing my vocabulary and or I'll learn something at Howl and be like, "Man, this is a really great 12/8 groove. Like, why does this feel so good? I want to write something in 12/8." So I don't know if I can point to a specific example of a song. Um, but that's like kind of how my mind works to being like every song that I learn, I'm digesting the harmony, digesting what the I'm trying to like reverse engineer it, and then I can use that same process in my own songs.
I do the same thing. You talked about being in LA, you talked about being in Pittsburgh, you're from Canada. We had an artist on here last year by the name of Alexandra Beck, who is from Vancouver. She now resides out in Los Angeles, and she talked a lot about what drew her to coming to America and dealing with this country's music business as opposed to Canada's music business. And we've talked off the air about why it seemed a very easy decision for you to move to America compared to chasing grants up in Canada. Perhaps I gave away the story and reasoning, but with the setup that they have up in Canada, why wasn't it very appealing for you to stay in Canada and pursue your career up there?
Some of it is really just there is an idea in Canada that like we know we're not the stars. You know, we know as like with the media and the culture, we know that Canada is, you know, playing second fiddle to the to US in terms of driving culture. So I think that thought was something that was in my head, but it's also just like in the ether around when you talk to a lot of Canadian artists, especially Canadian artists that are in like a pop vein, which is kind of you know, I've done some metal, I've done some neoclassical stuff, but I've always been drawn to doing like that pop music because the idea of appealing to the masses and moving a lot of people is very appealing to me. So there's a little bit of that. There's also the geographics of Canada that make touring really hard. The major cities are just really far, so it's hard to play. It's hard to route a tour because like there's a bunch of spots in Ontario where I'm from, and then you don't really have anything until you get to like Calgary. Or,
Yeah.
you know, like you can play some big cities out in west, but then Calgary, Edmonton, like and Vancouver, it's like there's a lot of it's just very expensive to tour and hard to do it as an independent. So there's those logistical things. And then there is also like the business thing. So Canada has a lot of programs that try to foster Canadian culture, whether that's like grants and or like little artist loans or artist incubators. And I was lucky to be involved in a lot of that while I was in college, you know. But I did start to feel like I was bumping up against a wall because it was less I felt at that time, you know, I felt that the my value as an artist was less about what my work was doing for people and more about how good of an essay I could write. And you know, I like writing, but I rather write a song than an essay. And so I did have like I would butt heads in that small scene. And you know, I do tell people that I'm from Windsor, Ontario, which is like 4 hours outside of Toronto. Um, so in Windsor's especially, it's a very small scene. So you're competing against like a small pool for those grants and for those opportunities, and it does kind of breed a lot of bitterness. And you know, I would people so the people who would get the grants would look at me and my band and be like, well, why do they have the audience? Why are they selling out this room? And then we would look at them and be like, well, why did you get this? We'd feel there's envy on both sides of like they were making more money from writing the grants and we had more people that were like in the room. So as a little bit of a back and forth. And I was very like very much a capitalist in those days. Like I believed in like if you create value, you'll be rewarded with value. The fairy tale of a meritocracy appealed to me big time, and now I know it's a fairy tale, but I needed to make the move to figure that out.
Yeah, I lived in I mean you lived in LA, I lived in Nashville, and Chicago also has a pretty good, pretty healthy amount of entertainment industry in that area as well. So I think you and I both know that you know, it's about who you know, and it doesn't help to have a little coin behind you. But you did say something about the essay writing and loving the ability to write. On your website currently sits the demos for the upcoming album Hungry Moon, and it not only has those demos set up, but it has stories on each page with actual handwritten lyrics that you have photographed and thrown up on your website. And so it's apparent that you love the process and you love showing the process at so much as well. And the process for this record, as I alluded to in the introduction, has been one. I'm not going to say how long it is because I don't want people doing math about you.
Uh,
But
it's
but
all good. I'm not ashamed. It's like 10 years. Yeah.
so so let's begin with what the intention is with this record as far as you setting up something. Hungry Moon. Why is Hungry Moon? What is Hungry Moon?
Yes. So this is part of a cycle. It's one album,
It involves
but
the
one
moon,
album,
so
and yeah, everything's a cycle. I'm a big astrology nerd. I've been as much as I've been interested in music, I've also been interested in stargazing the whole time, and interpreting symbols and what it means. I don't pretend I can predict the future or calculate people's compatibility, but I think it's like a really beautiful metaphor and a good reminder of how everything goes through cycles. So this EP is part of a cycle that's one album, and as I was conceiving it, as I went through this big life-altering shift, moving to Pittsburgh, it was like a quarter life crisis for me of doing a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection on who I was as a child and kind of like recovering that inner child. So, so the album is in three waves of EPs. Hungry Moon is the first one. The next one is about Mars, where you kind of like swing too far and you have a certain beliefs about the world as a child, and then in that in growing up and coming of age, it kind of gets shattered and you get disillusioned. And a lot of us, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but definitely me, I overcorrected. Like the pendulum swings too far in the other direction. So that's the Mars EP. And then the third installment that completes the album is Saturn Returns. So every 29 years or so, Saturn is back in the place it was in the sign it was at the time of your birth. There's been a number of great artists who've written about this. Ariana Grande has a Saturn return song, and Brandy Carlisle talks about her Saturn return too. So I'm one more into that metaphor, and yeah, so that's kind of what the head.
Explain Saturn return for those that are not into astrology.
Yeah, so it's when Saturn is back into the sign that it was when you were born. So every a natal chart or a birth chart is a snapshot of the sky at the moment that you were born. And Saturn is one of the slower moving planets. It's the slowest moving personal planet. So it takes 29 years to complete a cycle. And so that point, a lot of times people, when they're going through their Saturn return, they feel themes of self. Sometimes it can be like a hard time too, where people feel like life is teaching them difficult lessons. So it's like that, thinking about turning 30, but also it'll happen again when you're like in midlife. So a lot of times it's a threshold point or something that's teaching us lessons. And for me, it was a lot about coming home to myself, like rediscovering my artist self and getting back to that little girl that was standing on the bed singing into her Sailor Moon one, wanting to be Madonna.
Having these records stand alone is, I think, a brilliant way to give the concepts a way to breathe. Did you originally come to that idea of just doing these EPs, or was this at one point uh a full album, and for whatever reason it just got separated into three?
It's still in my mind, it's still very much a full album, and it will be a full album one day. 12 songs is intimidating for me, especially because, when I created
As
this.
prolific as you are, I find that ridiculous, but please explain.
Yeah, I find like recording to be a very intimidating process, you know? Um, for me, I always think of a song as done once I can sing it, and then recording it and trying to think of the version that fixes it in time. I find that to be very intimidating. Of like, because when I sing a song, I'm sure you do this too. Every time I sing it, I do it a little bit different. I might change a chord, I might, phrase something a little bit different. So when I'm committing something to tape, quote unquote, because everything is in a digital workstation now, but when I record something, now I feel like I'm getting married to it, and it's very like it has to be perfect. Um, and yeah, so I that's a big part of the reason why it's taken me 10 years to make this project, to make this album cycle, is because I had to like wade through self-doubt of like, oh, I'm not good enough yet. Who am I to do this or to but I had it in my head that I wanted to fully produce it myself. So I was like a little bit out of my like ego of wanting to say that I did it myself and
So this
take
is
that
all
achievement.
self-produced, every word on the record, every vocal, every instrument. That is Kim Maverick.
Yes, I did have a friend who's my drum teacher. He played drums on a couple of the songs, and there are some songs that are sort of like co-writes. So I believe that like there's a couple songs that I just like, it was a pivotal conversation with someone, and then I wrote a song that came out of that. And then some songs were songs that were co-written, but the production is me. It's like it's me mixing, it's me um, playing almost all the instruments except like those two tracks where it was drums.
What was the biggest challenge for you being behind? Was this the first time you've been behind the production? You've done work tapes all your life, I'm sure, but
Yeah, this is my first time really. Well, I guess like the singles that I've done in like 2020, that was when I started to get sort of like, okay, maybe I can learn to be my own record producer and be my own mix engineer. Um, so those ones I did on my own, but this is the first like larger project, and it's also like the stuff that I've released before were very much, they felt lighter. It felt like more of a experiment. And whereas this feels, it feels, because it's so personal, it's so like it's reflecting on my whole life. It's like my autobiography in song form. So it was easy for me to psych myself out about it and take it too seriously. So I don't know, something sort of happened last year where I was like, if I keep waiting to be ready to make this album, I'm going to be waiting forever. So I have to treat it as just like, this is what I can do with the skills that I have right now, celebrating what I've learned over the past 10 years with some songs that have, been there for me for a long time.
it sounds like with these three records, it's going to be digital only, and then once the third EP makes its way onto all the streaming sites, then we start seeing physical media. Am I on the right track with that?
Yeah, that's right. So, like this EP is just digital. I have some stickers if you want some stickers, but but yeah,
Yes.
it's just digital, and then when I finish all three, like the trilogy, I guess, then I'll put together some CDs, maybe even some vinyl if people want that. I feel excited about doing vinyl because I love looking at the liner notes. I love having the big artwork. And I did this artwork with an incredible artist out of Windsor. He's a photographer, and his name is Joe Simichin. We did like an on underwater photo shoot. So it's really me. It's really I'm really underwater, and it was very scary and very fun. And I think the images just came out beautifully.
That kind of a shot, I mean, it's a very oft used and and very effective when it is done right, and this is definitely one that is done right. We're going to throw it up one more time for the audience to see here. Well, Kim, this is a nice way of closing. We have a nice way of closing here on the Craig-Veltri interview. It's called the No Kidding Questionnaire. A couple of rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your mind, whenever you're ready, and away we go. Childhood celebrity crush.
Oh gosh. The Green Ranger from Power Rangers,
Tommy.
Jason David Frank, Tommy. Yeah, he was the first person that I pretended to get married to when I was like 4. Yeah.
I he
Jason
was.
David Frank and I would say Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy. She was another early first crush for me.
I was never into Buffy. I always kind of did like have a liking for Sarah Michelle for sure. Practical Magic or
Oh,
was
um,
well
I
the
know what
movie
you're
where
talking about.
the one where she cooks her feelings basically. I can't
I
remember
know
the
what you're
name of it.
talking about. Yeah, I can't remember the name either.
We'll do a quick editor's note on here as well. Um, Favorite subject in school. In fact, let me back up real quick as far as those two. Do you find that that in your life those are the kind of types that you wind up going after? Jason David Frank and Sarah McGill, Michelle Gellar.
Oh my gosh, like violent people? No.
No, I wasn't saying that. Just
I don't know. Like I don't definitely what do they have in common? That's funny. Um, they're very like high integrity people, like those characters especially. You know, they're people who have a sense of duty about them. But mostly I date musicians. Like I'm just around musicians. Someone who's not a musician is not going to get me. So, yeah, I've
mm.
had my heart broken and put together by many rock stars.
The influence it is abiding, I'd see. So, um, what was your favorite subject in school?
I really liked science. You know, of course I liked music and I liked like English writing. But I really liked science, especially biology. Like anything about the human body I find fascinating.
So, anatomy as well, probably more specifically the thing that fascinates you.
Yeah, anatomy and just like the systems of the body. Like I was really into the respiratory system when I was in like grade 5. I did like a model of it and stuff. Yeah. And it kind of like it kind of led into my interest in voice and personal fitness too.
Yeah, we've you bring that up, and it's like you go through your social media. It seems like you're in a 5K or a marathon every week. It seems. Do you? How often are you doing these things? Training like how often and how many have you done?
Running is relatively new for me. I It was a New Year's resolution in like 2023, and so I've done 2 half marathons, and I've done I think 4 5K races. But I run almost every day, and I also do a bar workout that's like Pilates and yoga inspired. Yeah, I don't know. I'm always chasing those exercise endorphins, feel good feelings.
Literally, if it comes to running,
Yeah.
what occupation other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would love to be a chef. I think that food is, if not the, it's one of, if not the highest art form because it hits all your senses,
Mm.
right? Like you see it, you hear it, you touch it, you taste it, you smell it. Like I think that that would be really cool. Um, yeah. Or I
Referencing
would like,
cuisine that you would if you were to open Mavericks, what would you be serving?
oh, some kind of fusion for sure. Like my mom is Korean. I love Korean food. I love Indian food too. So I would want to do some type of creative Asian fusion.
On the other side of the coin, I do not care how many bags of money have been handed to you, Kim Maverick. What job would you never want to attempt?
I would be a really, really bad Uber driver. I don't drive very well. I don't have a great sense of
You don't drive
direction.
at all, in fact.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I can drive. I don't own a car though, and yeah, I would just be terrible as an Uber driver. Like I'm so always nervous about where to park and where to stop. I no sense of direction. I wouldn't be good at that.
I did food delivery. I'm surprised that that I did it as long myself, especially in the city of Pittsburgh for sure. So yeah,
Oh yeah, Pittsburgh is crazy. Like if you Yeah, it's so hard to drive here. I'm
I'll
lucky I
give
don't
I'll
have to
give
go
I'll
anywhere.
give I'll give the Steel City its due. It was by necessity that I learned how to parallel park. So bravo for that job for that alone. Um, well, you even whether you're driving or not, what is your go-to food on a road trip?
Coffee, coffee all the way. I love a
You,
black coffee and a cherry cheese Danish, like those, like the bear claw things that you can
yeah.
get. That's probably my go-to. Dip it in the coffee.
Uh, a- any so that's breakfast. Any other do you like you know peanuts or candy bars or anything other than that or is that
I'm very into Pringles, very into like chips. I'm like I'm a big fitness junkie, and then
you had a
I also only eat junk. No, I love a limited edition chip flavor, like you
you
know, like
as far as the BY you threw a party and on the
yeah, that's
invitation
right.
you said bring BYOB or a limited edition chip. So that
Yeah.
that checks. My philosophy as far as junk food is concerned, I burn my calories anyway, so I'll eat anything. So and speaking of, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm. Dead or alive? I gotta go dead. I gotta go dead. I would maybe say Leonardo da Vinci. I think that could be really cool. I loved the Da Vinci Code when I was a kid,
Me too.
and I think like I would just like to pick his brain and just see what kind of things he would observe at dinner. Um, or another big part of we didn't really talk about this, but like voice training and voice like learning about the voice was a big part of my journey. And there's this, so I teach and I'm like obsessed with this model called Estel voice training. So Joe Estel is like the research scientist who created that, and she passed away like just before I started training in this. It's like an athletic model of voice production. So it's like we get into the anatomy, we get into like specific exercises that target different parts of the voice so that way voice actors can change it, or you can use it for singing, or you can use it for just being like a better communicator.
Mm.
And so I never got a chance to meet her, even though I've poured over her words and learned from her top students. So I would have loved the chance to meet her.
Yeah, Maverick, what is your biggest pet peeve?
I don't know if I really have. Maybe like people who try to talk while they're yawning. Maybe that, because like I can't understand you. Um, but I don't know. I think I'm a pretty tolerant person.
I would, of all the people that I've spoken to, and there have been a few people that have struggled with this question in particular. I expected you to be among them that would have struggled with it, so that makes sense. Normally, this is the last question of the questionnaire. So, Kim, what is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
Hmm. Life is long. You have more time than you think. Um, I'm trying to think of who told me this. It might have been Tina Fey. Actually, I might have seen like Tina Fey in an interview talk about this. But I think especially being a woman in music, I really did have it in my head that if I wasn't famous before I was 21, my life was over. And that has not been my reality at all. I've like, everything as I get older, I
Wait, you're
think I
not
just get
21?
better.
I
As I get older, I just get better and hotter and wiser and learn more things.
facts.
So yeah, I don't know. Like you have more time than you think, and whether that's about like not about figuring out what you want to do in your life, or in the case of a project like this, where I was like, I really, when I originally had the idea to do a Saturn Returns album, I was like, I'm gonna release it on the day of my Saturn return, which is when I was 29, and here I am like 7 years later. So,
Life is
um,
Long, the title of probably my favorite David Byrne solo song.
mm,
And the other thing that comes to mind when I hear this, Jack Nicholson playing in the movie The Evening Star, the sequel to Terms of Endearment. Shirley MacLaine's character asks Jack's character, do you worry about aging? And Jack says, and I don't do a very good Jack Nicholson impression, so I won't. He says, no, because I have done it so well. That is
Yeah, that's great.
that is normally the last question of the questionnaire, but since it has been revealed in this interview that you give music lessons, you are a teacher, that qualifies you for the Lonnie Billard Memorial question, which goes
Okay.
something like this. Maybe not the best advice that you give your students, but what is the most common advice you find giving your students?
Hmm. I'm gonna go off of something that like my teachers told me a lot, and I found myself repeating a lot. Is that the space between the notes is more important than the notes themselves. Um,
Ah,
that has changed meaning for me so many times over like as I've music is endless. You can study and study. There's always more. But originally he meant it as like I think he meant it as a rhythm thing. Shout out to my piano teacher, Tim Brunette. I don't know if he'll ever hear this, but he meant it as a rhythm thing of like making sure that you're feeling time. But I think there's also an element of like it's not about yeah, it's like of like letting the music breathe and the connection between it's like a conversation. It's not always about what you're saying. It's about that flow, whether that's like between players or between me and an audience. It's not always about like the discrete things that I'm doing or like any one any one note. It's that exchange. So yeah, space between the notes more important than the notes themselves.
I'm a huge fan of the stops in music and rests in music. Sometimes when I'm on stage, that pregnant pause in this, it's not so much a pregnant pause, it is a maternity ward pause sometimes. Oh,
Yeah.
anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
Milk it. Yeah, milk it. Mm.
Well, Kim, this is the part of the show that every guest should enjoy the most. It is time for shameless self promotion. Hungry Moon drops today as of this episode dropping. Where can we find it? Where can we find you? Plug your pluggables. Fire away.
You should be able to find Hungry Moon everywhere that you like to stream music online. I also have it direct for download on my website, kimmaverick.com, and on Bandcamp. I try as much as possible to support artists directly. And so anybody who chooses to support me directly too, I love you. I appreciate you. Let's get coffee. Let's have a good time. So yeah, that's the main thing for me. Beyond that, my life is really focused around another big move, another big move. So it was 10 years in Pittsburgh, and now I'm getting ready to make another move over to Chicago. So that's taking like most of my focus creatively, but I know I'm always sharing little songs. I'm always sharing like I write haiku on Threads, and then I post little I call them song sketches. They're like a lot of times it's just an initial idea for a song, and I share those on YouTube or Instagram. So I'm going to be writing through the whole process. That's like a big thing for me is writing. They end up being like a song diary, and yeah. So some of those song sketches, I will pick like my favorite one of the month and write a longer behind the scenes song blog about it, as you're mentioning on my website. So yeah, I love that. I'm big into evidence. That's all I'm about. I like to live life and create a lot of evidence, leave it behind. So, yeah, I'd love to hear
Here's
some of
hoping
that.
one day that these pieces do become archaeology. But in the meantime, Kim, let me just say this: I've said it on stage before. I'll say it on in this program again. I've never met somebody so erudite in my entire life. You have such a wealth of knowledge. You are so open and free and giving of that knowledge in your personality and in your music. And it is also refreshing to see that you don't believe that the well is even close to being filled yet. So it's just a constant cycle, if you will, of gaining that. And I look forward to continuing to see what you find and what you're willing to give throughout the time that I hope to continue to know you. And thank you once again for joining me here today on the Craig-Veltri interview. Congratulations on the record.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. You're awesome, Craig.
The Craig-Veltri interview, where Craig-Veltri interviews wonderful people, is a production of Scarfire Media, the voice of the independent artist. Written and edited by Craig-Veltri. Your announcer is Megan Pennington. The opening theme, Shut Up, I Love You, written by Trenton Chandler and Craig-Veltri. Performed by Craig-Veltri. Produced by Jack Gavin. Inside the Cabin is Inside the Can. Megan Pennington and I knocked out vocals like it owed us money. And technically it does. We're hoping to make some money back off of this. But many thanks to Dallas Jack for his diligence in working on this record, to Matt Wagner for laying down some killer drums. We look forward to adding some final pieces on a few other songs. As I said, the full record is going to be out late March, early April, but Inside the Cabin, the single, will definitely be ready to roll by February the 13th. On February the 13th, Megan and I will be recording an interview with Jagoff podcast here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Looking forward to reconnecting with John and Rachel, and we're looking forward to being in studio together, Megan and I, with them for the very first time. Keep it locked on all of our social media for further updates. Speaking of things that need to be updated and pertaining to Moonshine Vagabonds as well, time now to update the event calendar because you must know where I am at all times. Saturday, January 17th, Scarfire Media Music Showcase at Green Beacon Gallery in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, with Moonshine Vagabonds, Core Acoustic, and Murphy Lawless. Doors at 7 p.m., $10 cover, BYOB. That's the Scarfire Media Music Showcase at Green Beacon Gallery in Greensburg with Moonshine Vagabonds, Core Acoustic, and Murphy Lawless. For full dates, including Pittsburgh, Canton, Ohio, Nashville, Memphis, and Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, please visit my website, craig-veltri.bandzoogle.com. For booking info, including full band and this podcast, email me at craig-veltri@gmail.com. You can find the interview on Facebook by searching the Craig Veltri interview, YouTube at Craig Veltri Music, and you can find me on Instagram, or as my old roommate, the Tommy Thomas, used to call it, Instagirl, at craig.veltri. For Kim Maverick, I'm Craig Veltri, and this has been the Craig Veltri interview. With that, I'll pass off the EP Hungry Moon. It's Kim Maverick with Made of Glass here on the Craig Veltri interview, proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network.